Hey, Dental Nachos crew. It is Paul, Dr. Nacho, live from our office here in Pennington, New Jersey, with my awesome friend, Dr. Maggie Augustyn, Spicy Toppings episode. I have here on the board, you're a dentist. You got to keep your crying on the inside. You're sweating on the outside. So I'm like, 8 hours into this day, but fun day dentisting. Also some patients who are unhappy, some patients who are happy, the whole nacho plate. But I'm thrilled to have Dr. Maggie here. She's on a mission. The courage to be vulnerable together. She writes articles. She's a medium-age dentist practice owner, one of my favorite people in the whole dentisting world, dentisting in parentheses, because truly the world. So welcome, Dr. Maggie. Share with our audience where you are in this dentisting world and what you want to talk about today.
So my name is Maggie Augustyn. I'm a general dentist in a suburb of Chicago. I have been practicing since 2004, so going on 16 years, and I have been a practice owner for almost 15 years.
Wow.
So I stepped out of into really large britches really early on in my dentisting career and have made every single mistake in the book. And really, I continue to do that and just keep learning from it. So
I just call them drop nachos. I mean, we get even dramatic with what we talk about. We learn from our failures. Oh, your marginal bridge broke off. It's such a giant failure. Just a drop nacho, we could pick it up. I think even just the dramatization of failures in dental school gets you nuts. So share with us, Maggie. I know you're going to share with us about your mission, but I have a good question for you. If you could go back in time, like my favorite movie, Back to the Future, and tell that Maggie who's just about to own a practice one or two things. What are some things that just people who don't own practices are not aware of? I'm in my practice, you're in your practice. What are some things you weren't aware of before you owned a practice?
I think the best advice I can give you, and advice that I did not know existed, and I certainly did not know to take, is to surround yourself by the right people right from the get-go. And that sometimes means hiring the right people, but more importantly, hire someone that will teach you how to hire right.
Yeah,
so
very important.
Surround yourself by people that know more than you, because you don't know what you don't know. And so grab a consultant, ask for advice. Don't try and reinvent the wheel.
And there's people out there who know what they're doing and can change your life in the best way. Don't be dentist cheap about it, and don't also be too scared about it. Find out more, get references, but don't feel like you have to know everything yourself. We just had a great seminar today with someone about coding and billing. I mean, those are not the things that you can learn all on your own. So I think that's great advice. Now let's shift gears. Tell us about this article that you wrote, the mission that you're getting out there. I love it, but I want our audience to know. I know about it, but I want our audience to know about it. Share with us a little bit about that.
I am really very honored. I wrote this article a long time ago, probably towards January or February, because I was moved by my own life situation to start looking down on anything and everything that I'd accomplished. It just didn't mean very much, because I kept comparing myself to people that had accomplished more than I had. And so I began to rethink the last 20 years of my life and became reminded very readily about the time that I had suffered my first real large mental breakdown in college, in junior year of college, and ended up being hospitalized. And this was in 1998. I actually became hospitalized on April Fool's Day. I will never forget that day. It was a very difficult day for my family and for myself. And when I came back after about 2.5 months back to school, people in the hallway lined the hallways and stared at me. Jeez. And I felt ashamed and I felt alone. Mental disease was not well received at that time. It was better received than it was probably in the 80s, but it still had a really far time to go. And in that moment, I still remember that moment.
And Maggie, I don't want to jump in. I appreciate you sharing this authentic journey, and it's so helpful. You can watch this, but what's always bothered me about this, and I'm not a professional and don't have a experience in helping people like you do, but if I played a lot of sports, if someone injured their knee, and they came back to school, no one would say, wow, that was weird, you couldn't figure that out on yourself. But for some reason, we do this with another body part. And I mean, we've made progress, and then I appreciate you sharing that, but maybe not enough progress. So I think this mission of yours to share about how depression can affect all of us. I've also, and I also don't want to be totally clear, I have no training in this at all, but I'm in my office, we talk about periodontal disease, right? Mild, medium, and advanced. And we could have the same thing in all aspects of things that we deal with, flare-ups and things like that. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want you to go on, but I just wanted to share, I'm with you on that. You hurt your knee, no one says figure it out yourself, but for some reason, when it's with your mental thing, they want you to do that, which is just unfair.
And it's still to this day, if someone has cancer, you're going to get meals sent to you,
Right.
and everybody's going to gather around and pray for you. But people don't feel comfortable sharing that they're on the verge of suicide, because it still is thought of as a weakness. And in my article, when I start out, I write, by the time I turned 40, as I'm in my 40s, I thought I would have had life figured out, and I don't. And
Right.
so when I came back to school and I felt so alone and so ashamed, in that moment, I decided that one day I am going to do something to help people not feel so alone. And I finally come to be healthy enough, and I undergo experimental treatment called ketamine for a form of treatment-resistant depression that I suffer from. In 2018, I went through more than 40 medication changes, which could not stabilize my mood until I found ketamine. But I am finally healthy enough to speak out and to bring this topic front and center to our dentisting conversation.
Love that. It's important for it to be there, Maggie. Share with us a little, because this is interesting to me. I was just talking to a patient who was in her 70s who said, the world's too stressful for her to get her dental work done right now, but she's glad she came and heard about it. And I said, listen, I want to be a good dentist, so I don't want to make you think that you can just deal with this whenever, because it's like a little fire in one part of the house. You don't want it to spread to other parts, even if you don't think it's a big deal now. Are there some things, if a dentist was watching now, you think back to your early days till now, and we've had some, it's just some very, sad dentists dying by suicide stories throughout this pandemic. What are some things that people should notice or be aware of, or from your experience, that would be helpful?
So I have to reiterate, just like you do, I am not a mental health professional. I am simply speaking from my own experience.
Gotcha, yeah.
I don't have an MD, I don't have a PhD. I'm a dentist that has suffered with depression since second grade. So I have some tools in my tool belt that have allowed me to overcome difficult situations. But for anybody that is really rumbling with the idea of suicide, they need to reach out to a professional. Okay.
I saw you posted on the groups the other day. I thought that was so great. You just posted the suicide hotline. We can do that here. I mean, just, Frank King has been on things as well. And just people knowing that there's resources out there is key.
Yeah, I would encourage you, if you have a birthday coming up or an anniversary, you can tag yourself and you can fundraise for the suicide hotline. And as we know, in this pandemic, as isolating as it is, suicide and depression are really going up, as is addiction and violence. Yeah. And so that is a really important thing that we have that we can reach out to. But for someone that is really suffering with depression, what we have now that we didn't have 10 years ago, that we didn't even have 5 years ago, Paul, is what you have created, the safety and the kindness of an environment online where dentists can get together and reduce the isolation. My favorite thing about Dental Nachos is the fact that no matter where you are in your career, if you are struggling, you can reach out, you can post a question, and you will find someone, and you may even get to talk to them out on the phone and get them to give you advice to get you through that. And whenever I meet someone that is struggling with something similar to myself, I always encourage them to reach out to me on Messenger. And then I end up talking to a lot of people on the phone. And I love that, because you know what? People have done that for me in the last.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's the power of what I call the 3 C's: connection, community, caring. We just had a great win today. I was so happy. A bad reached out to me, baby, and said, I can't get my license in PA and I'm running out of money. And I felt so bad. And I felt flattered, but also a little worried. They said, can you help me? And I said, I don't know, but I put it out to the community, and we got enough noise that somebody from our group kind of kindly annoyed the state board, and now she has her license. So to me, I just think that's the coolest thing. And, that's the power of, community collaboration, caring about each other, connecting. It's so those C's in the light of the coronavirus, I think, can be used to kind of bond together, to use a dental term.
Yeah. And guess what? That person that just got her license or his license, they're going to pay it forward.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I saw you last night talking about that, how we feel when we give on another show. And that really struck me, because during this time for all of us, when we feel kind of helpless, when you can do something to give, I think it, helps you as much as the person that you're giving to.
It does. And then the one thing to remember also in depression and in feeling down is, do not hesitate to give onto yourself and to receive onto yourself from other people.
Yeah.
Be open to that, lean into that. It doesn't have to be go, go, go. You don't just have to give to everybody around you. Feel free to receive from yourself and from others so that you can gain some peace, perspective, love, kindness, compassion. Be compassionate about yourself, about how you feel. And that'll kind of dissipate some of this. But I think the most important point in trying to bring this article together is to realize that we are not alone. Yeah. With reading this and with being part of, the kind of group that you have, isolation it's really changed. Even though we can't be with one another, and you and I have talked about this silly competition that we have with our neighbors, right? Finding each other online. And there's so many people. I've met people in Hawaii, that I've become
friends. And it's also
with.
the competition part. I was listening to a great Seth Godin podcast on Lewis Howes this morning, driving with Jeff. And, it's not just this competition we have in our minds. No one's really keeping score. No one's even asking you, right? Very few people ever even step foot inside of your dental practice. So it's just, it could be freeing to realize, maybe, Gary Vee talks about this. If you realize how little people really did think about you, you would feel more free. And I think, you talk about, how does gratitude help in this? I love that your concept of feeling gratitude for this. I think dentists need more of that, because they, like you said, they beat themselves up sometimes over the smallest things that are inconsequential to outcomes, right? But they make themselves feel less than because of that. And I think it's important for all of us to find gratitude at this time wherever we can. What are your thoughts on that?
Gratitude is magic. Yeah. Gratitude beats anger. If you for any time in your life feel like you have anger coming on, if you really can focus on gratitude, you will dissipate the anger. Yeah. Gratitude will make loneliness seem a little bit different. Gratitude will beat competition. Right. Gratitude will beat you competing with somebody else.
Yeah,
I love that. What you have. Look around at how lucky you are. Hey, what about that Hamilton line, right? How lucky we are.
Yes, to be alive right now. Yeah, that's great. I love it.
That is one of my favorite songs. And so finding gratitude in whatever we have, okay, and even in the fact that we have gas in our car, even in the fact that we have a warm house, anything. Like the other day I was talking to my daughter and she's like on the border of tears, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And she's like, Mommy, all these homeless people, where are they going to go in the winter?
Yeah. So
think about what we have, right?
And then when you do that, I saw you guys did an awesome thing where you're handing out sandwiches to the homeless people. I just think is the coolest thing. And I just think, even though my 6 and 2-year-old, and they're growing up in this very challenging time, I do like that we've made kindness cool. We've made giving cool. I think their generation is really going to be different. Like I had Mr. Rogers, who I loved, but I don't know if his message got across in the 80s the way it should have. And, I think if we had an updated version of that now, it would be more received. And how could we get this, as we wrap up, Maggie, and I want people to talk about earlier, like, how do you think we could get this back to the dental students early in their career? Because I think it's great to have dental nachos post-career. We get to some dental students, but I would just love if dental schools would be open to having these conversations, but it doesn't seem like they are as far as I know. But I think that's the key time, 0 to 4 years before you get out of school. How do you think we could make progress with that?
I think that bringing this conversation front and center and making everyone aware and bringing attention to it is super important, because in dental school, and I don't know how it is now, but back when you and I were in school, it was like, well, the instructors were mistreated or they weren't treated very well. So you're going to get the same, right? Also being open about how we feel. Before, you just kind of had to suck it up. You went to the bathroom, like in the ladies' bathroom, one of us was always crying.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way, right? And so by really making our instructors aware of the fact that this is so extremely stressful and we are suffering.
Yeah.
How can we perform at our best when we are suffering and we're barely scraping ourselves off the floor to come in the next day because of how mistreated we were the last?
I think that's right. I think one of the challenges is that I've taught in dental schools early in my career. I teach in residencies, what I like, but you need to have more of private practice dentists, at least infusing some of the feeling. I think it's awesome to have either retired dentists or academic dentists, but sometimes that's like either people who've never had kids or their kids are grown. You kind of need the people with the practice, like I'm sitting in here, that you're dealing with this 3-year-old every day that doesn't grow up, and helping the students realize how to manage that when they get out. Because I always say, if you practice how you did in dental school, in the real world, you go out of business in a week. And no, I just want to know, I'm not an economist, but you cannot help any patients if your practice goes out of business.
Right.
So, you know, we need to figure out that way. Well, we're going to keep this theme up, Maggie. Share with us, how can people find that article and how can they reach out to you if they want to connect with you?
Okay, so huge fan of Dentistry Today. You can find some other writing that I've done on dentistrytoday.com. If you go to dentistrytoday.com, there is a digital edition of the print version of the magazine. And so this article is in the print version. It's on the 10th page.
Awesome.
It's on the viewpoint. And you can find it if you've gotten your Dentistry Today and it's sitting somewhere on a pile, flip through it. If you, for some reason, have gotten rid of it, then you can go to dentistry.com and find the digital edition and go to the 10th page, and that's where you'll find what I'd written.
Awesome. We'll try to put it there. And how can people, they can reach out to you on Facebook Messenger, and is there any other good way to get in contact with you if they're watching?
I mean, I'm kind of plastered all over the place. You can go to my business website, which is myhappytooth.com, and my cell phone number is on there. Also, I am going to share my email address, which is dr_Augustyn@yahoo.com. I mean, just feel free to contact me in any way that you want, and I am happy to help out anyone. Again, I am not a mental health professional, but I can help guide you and I can listen.
Yeah, I love that. We're all in this wacky dancing world together. The more we care and share, the better. Thanks again for those amazing shirts you sent to the moderators too. I love when they have them on. So thanks for being you, Maggie. We'll have you back on soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.